Welcome to day 5 of Beginner Tarot. We are on card number 4 today, the Emperor. Now, in the last video, we talked about the Empress, and she was the mother of society, which makes the Emperor the father of society. Now, this is a card of being confident, knowing what you're supposed to do, and being a leader. And again, we're not talking about gender roles. This isn't about male or female. We know that those things have changed in society. But when we're relating tarot cards to the sequence of events in a lifetime and how society developed, we see a little bit better what these cards mean. So the Empress was the mother. She was the one who birthed the children, and she was the one who was supposed to care for them unconditionally. That unconditional love that maybe sometimes didn't have logical thought behind it, but her love for her children and her family guided her to make her decisions. Now, when we look at the Emperor, he was the one who would go out into society and basically set the rules of society, right? Set what things are going to look like, be a leader, create laws, create the rules that society and the people within the society had to follow. So the Emperor is really a card of being a leader and using logical thought before that thoughts and feelings from the heart. Now, we're not saying that he doesn't lead with passion, because the Emperor is someone who's very passionate about what they do, but those laws and logic come first before those feelings of the heart sway any of those decisions. Now, in this particular card, we see what looks like a father or grandfather figure. He seems to be working and maybe not paying attention to the child, but the rules have been set. The child knows what's expected. So the Emperor doesn't worry that the child's going to wander away, because the child follows what the Emperor has told them and set those rules in place on what's expected. Now, if we see the Emperor in the reverse position, that very likely means that someone either lacks maturity, or that they don't either have what it takes to be a leader, or maybe they're just not ready to be a leader. But let's take a peek at some other imagery in the Emperor to show you how to connect with the cards and what some of these symbols mean. Now, in this particular card, we see the Emperor who has a crown on his head, and it appears that this crown likely symbolizes that third eye, right? Where we have that wisdom to be able to know what we should do and to be able to create those laws and be a good leader. Now, this Emperor also carries a wand with an orb on the top, and that orb symbolizes the world as a whole and being the leader over the world and setting those laws. And the traditional image of the Emperor, we see the Emperor sitting on a throne. So you immediately see that leadership and have respect for it based on the fact that this person just exudes that leadership and respect. This one does have the 2 ram heads because the Emperor does rule the sign of Aries. And then we are also seeing that in his hand here, he holds a wand with the Ankh symbol. Now, that's the Egyptian symbol for life, and it's the idea that the Emperor controls life and death by creating those laws that people are supposed to follow, right? Just like a judge or a leader would over someone who perhaps was arrested. Here's another card of the Emperor that also shows we see the horns of the ram on it. We see the Ankh symbol hanging off of those horns, and we see that orb held in the center of the body, signifying and symbolizing the earth and the control over it. This is another one that has some very similar imagery, where again, you're seeing that orb in the center that he's holding, the Ankh symbol on the wand, the horns of the ram. And in this one, we're also seeing an owl, because the owl in tarot cards is seen as a symbol of wisdom. And that owl's also holding an orb. So that wisdom of, again, knowing what to do and knowing the right way to proceed and using knowledge rather than thoughts and feelings. And one more very similar imagery, sitting on a throne to show that dominance and that leadership. We see the Ankh symbols on that throne. we see the horns of the ram, and back here we see some sort of city or maybe a castle of some sort that this person is the leader over, and that's the city that he rules. Now in our silly fun tarot deck, Hocus Pocus with the Sanderson sisters, we see Max Dennison's father because, well, he's the only father that we see in the movie, so he's the one representing the Emperor in this case. So if the Emperor is showing up for you, it's very likely talking about who you are as a person and the fact that you are a good leader who can lead with thinking fairly, learning the laws and the rules, and listening to all sides of the conversation, and then make fair decisions accordingly. Thank you so much for joining me in this tarot class. I hope you'll follow along with the rest of them. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, where I share some more information on imagery and the tarot deck. Thanks for joining me.